Welcome to Weber Math. I'm Nicholas Weber. Today we're going to be talking about how to reference other cells in other sheets, and other cells in other sheets in other workbooks. Confused yet? Well, it's actually quite easy when we get down to it. I realized that perhaps it might have been better to talk about relative and absolute references to cells before we did this, but this is the video I promised this week, so that's what we're going to do. Check back next week when we'll talk about how to go ahead and deal with absolute and relative references to cells. One quick word before we get started. If you have spaces in your sheet names or your workbook names that you're referencing, so for example, if you're referencing Q1 sales, a tab with that name, you'll need to put it in single quotes. So it's a good idea when you're constructing your workbook names and your sheet names to keep that in mind, to maybe make it a little easier on yourself, but we'll take a look at that right now. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's talk about how to go ahead and make these cell references, sheet references, and workbook references. So first, a quick review. I think you've seen this before, but just in case, what you can do is you can go to any cell and hit equals and then the address of the cell that you're referring to. So here if we hit equals A1, it will display what you have in A1. And if you change A1 to something else, it will also change whatever's here, like so. So that's how you refer to a cell. How do you refer to a sheet? It's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is, again, start with a formula, equals, and then the name of the sheet you're referring to, Q1 in this case, and then an exclamation point, because Q1 is also an address of a cell, so we want to make sure that Excel knows that we're referring to a sheet. So you put the exclamation point after it, and then the cell you're referring to. So here, this will refer to just Gandalf's total Q1 sales. If we go back, you'll see that his sales are in B2, and that's why I referred to cell B2. But we want, in this column, the total sales for the entire year. And that's going to be pretty easy, because all we have to do is go ahead and refer to every sheet, so Q2, and the results are still in B2, and then Q3, B2, and then Q4, exclamation point, B2. And then if we hit enter, there are Gandalf's sales for the total year. And you'll want to make sure that when you set up your workbook, that it's always the same. So here in B2, every single quarter, it's Gandalf's sales. And you need to be careful of that, because if you build your formula assuming that things are the same but you've shifted everything over to the right one column, then it will really mess things up. So be sure that your sheets are set up in the same way. And now we can go back to the summary and apply this to the whole team. And here are their total sales for the entire year. Now we want their percentage of positive feedback and the percentage of reports they've turned in. So if we go back to Q1, you can see that I've turned these into Boolean values in column F and column G. This corresponds to reviews. This corresponds to whether or not they have the report in. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can go ahead and actually copy this formula, and we'll be using it. We can use it just making a few changes over here. First of all, we need to refer to F2 instead of B2. And also we need to enclose this whole formula and divide it by 4, because we want a percentage of reports that they've gotten in, and there are 4 quarters. So, and then we can apply it to the whole team. And now, because right now this is referring to F, and we know that the report Boolean values are in G, all we have to do is drag this over, and that'll give us the percentage of reports from 2012 as well. And so if we look back, apparently Sam's been so busy taking care of the customers, he hasn't been filing his reports. So if we take a look back, Sam got a positive review there, didn't file his report. Oh, he did file it there, didn't, and didn't. So we can see that this formula is working, which is great. But we also want to find out what 2011 total sales were. And here's where we can refer to other workbooks. And here's how you do that. You just do that with brackets. And I recommend that you have the other workbook open so you don't have to refer to the file path, you can just refer to it by name. So here we want 2011.xlsx, and we want to refer to quarter 1, exclamation point, B2. And if we hit enter, oh, I forgot to put the equals sign before. If we hit enter, there are Gandalf sales just for the first quarter. And we can see if we go to the first quarter, it matches 218K and change, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of this, doing the same thing that we did over here. And we'll come back in just a moment and you can check my work. Okay, welcome back. So as you can see, I've filled out the rest of this, and you can check my formulas if you'd like to. Here's what I did for the first one. Here's what I did for the second one. And here's what I did for the last one. So, how can we make sense of this data? Well, we can use conditional formatting like I showed you a few weeks ago. Or we can go ahead and design a dashboard, which is a quick and easy way to see at a glance what's going on. And we'll talk about how to do that week after next. Come back next week when we'll talk about how to deal with absolute and relative cell references. Thanks so much for watching. Check back next week when we'll talk about absolute and relative references to other cells. In the meantime, if you have more questions or if you want to see more about Excel, VBA, or myself, check out my website, www.webermath.com. Take care.